Hello, everyone. It's December 30th, 2014. It's Tuesday. It's Harp Tuesday. In fact, the last Harp Tuesday of the year. It's funny because at the start of 2014, I looked and I saw, the first Harp Tuesday episode is going to be number 71. And of course, if I do an episode every 2 weeks, which is, it's always my goal, that's 26 episodes in a year. So that's up to 96. And I thought, if I can just do 4 extra episodes, last episode of the year would be episode number 100. Well, I haven't quite managed that. This is going to be I'm actually going to do sort of a special double episode. So this will be 85 and 86. But I guess that just means episode 100 comes in 2015. And for the last episode of the year, as I say, it's going to be a double episode. What I'm going to do is finish off my look at the Handel Harp Concerto. So this episode, I'll be talking about the third movement, and then I'll follow that up. I'll record right after this an episode on the cadenza. So let's talk about this third movement, which is a beautiful, fun, very fun, kind of short, repetitive little movement. And I thought I would talk first, I guess, about the transition getting from the second movement into the third movement, because we've cadenza finishes, we come back with. And Nagrangeni has here a couple markings. He's got a full muffle, right? And an attacca. In other words, we're going right into it rather than a pause, no shuffling of music around and etc. Just straight into the next movement. So I love that idea. To me, yes, the first movement, right? We finish, and then we prepare for the second movement. This ending of the second movement, to me, wants to go right into the third movement. But while I would like to have this sound stopped once I start the third movement, I don't really want to muffle. I feel that visually that interferes. And it also, I think, orally, to have that stop before we start is also a little jarring. So we get. And it's a different type of transition, right? So if I could, right, I would have that muffle right there, but I can't. What I can do grab a quick muffle in there. Let's try that again. Etc. Maybe just grab a little muffle to get rid of the sound at that point. But anyway, something to play around with and see what you prefer, but just being aware of that transition there. And then once we start this last movement, you'll see right away that I'm doing something different than what Nagrangeni has written. He has this staccato, right? Doing 2-2-2-2-2, where you're deliberately muffling the previous note with the back of the finger. And it's a neat sound. The problem with it is it's kind of hard to do fast. And I mean, obviously, it's not something you encounter every day. It's not like, say, a scale where, hopefully you can do it that as fast as needed. In this case, I could certainly probably do it better if I practiced it all the time. But I learned it this way. And I was never completely happy and comfortable with it. And so eventually I just decided, no, you know what? I'm just gonna connect there, right? I'm just gonna finger it so that it sounds good. It's not in the original, right? There's no indication that Handel wanted that staccato. And so again, it's one of these spots where if you like it and if it's playable for you at whatever tempo you're playing, great. But again, I don't think one needs to feel tied to doing that because it's something that Nagrangeni added to the original. And then another spot to be aware of, just in terms of, to me, one of the actually more difficult parts of this movement is these descending thirds, right? And I think I did an episode on that in slides, right? Talking about slotting the thumb and playing the finger underneath, which is always a little tricky, and especially trying to bring out that finger and not, have that thumb come down and stop the note beneath, which it can happen if you're trying to play quite loudly. For me, it's always a slightly awkward spot where, I'm hearing the top note. The bottom notes are not maybe always as crystal clear as I would like, but anyway, a spot to practice for sure. When we get this where it's marked solo, again, I'm fingering. And these chords, by the way, to be honest, I'm never quite sure exactly whether I want to break that first one or not. In some ways, I want to make the start a little bit less abrupt, right, when we start this section, by giving that first one a little bit of a crack. On the other hand, once we get into it, I certainly don't want to break this last one. Or when we come down here, when we come down there, I'm probably playing it flat. So again, something to listen to. You record yourself, listen to it, decide whether you want to break something or not on those opening chords and having it make sense. Then I wanted to talk about a spot where I'm doing a slightly different fingering, and that's here on the second line of the page 15, I guess. So what have we've gotten into it. Let's do the bar before. So what I'm doing, right, is I'm coming down, instead of doing 1, 2, this awkward gap between 2 and 3, and then another crossover. What I'm just doing is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, which is really comfortable in the right hand. That feels great. And then the left hand is going to actually take 2 notes instead of 1 and cross over. So, sorry. What do we got here? Is that right? I put some notes in here. I hope that I'm doing that. I think that's correct, right? Oh, okay, yeah, I know what I was doing. Yeah. Or, these things, this piece is, I've played it so often, it's quite memorized, so you get these spots where you kind of forget what it is that you're doing, right? Because you never have to think about it. So, yeah, to me that ends up feeling much easier. A couple spots here where I'm using 3 instead of 2. This feels much easier. And then this just to keep that same pattern. I'm not doing this little note here, which again is added. I'm just starting again like the very beginning. Again, leaving out this note. Start the second half, and these little grace notes are added, but I like them. When we get to this 2D section here, the violins and or flutes are playing those grace notes, or ornaments, whatever. So, I like it. Sorry. And again, I'm making sure that they're coming on the beat. And I do like the 3, 1, 2 alternating fingers. Trying to make the quality of that grace note be flowing, not harsh. There can be a tendency to have it kind of attack that sound, be And I don't think we want that. So I'm really thinking about delaying that second finger so that I'm not getting a stopped sound coming away, so that it floats rather than is harsh in attacking there. Then we got one of my favorite sections. And again, those little ornaments are things that Granjani added. I like them, but it's definitely a lot easier to play without them, and potentially cleaner. So just something to keep in mind, because that does get a little bit hard when we're trying to go. Is that actually what I do? Sorry, just a second. Yeah, okay, I do 1 2 3 1 2 3 instead of 1 2 1 2 3 4 coming down there. That's written, so not quite as written. This section, just being aware of cleanness and like thinking about approaching from above for me when I'm playing it, right? That there's a lot of opportunity to buzz as we're moving around there, and just trying to sneak in and approach from above throughout that. Here, getting that fourth finger. And this, sneaking this chord in. And here, being aware of the little trade-off in hands. They're playing back and forth. This is a spot as well to be able to delay that placing, sneak in, sorry. Anyway, just, clean and singing throughout. Then here on the second to last line, again, this is, Granjani puts in this B flat or A sharp. And the original is actually a D there. Which I like the sound of that better, and it's that is a case where actually I think it's one of the few. Occasionally Granjani will change the octave, right? So for example, right here at the top of the page, it's actually that was originally written an octave higher, but this is I think like he adds some notes in as well, but this is, I think, the only spot where he actually changes what Handel's written, so that, again, it should be. And here again, we get those descending thirds. So that's a spot where, even if you like that B or the A sharp, I would be really inclined to play the D instead. We get the 2D, and we get this. And I do kind of like that staccato sound, and in this case, for me at least, this is comfortable to play, whereas this is just, I was never happy with it. It always sounded bad. So I do this one. A change here at the end of this second to last line, which I think makes it a little bit easier. Continue to trade off, so the hands are taking one note each. Connect up to that thumb, then reach down and down. If you need to, just omit that B as well. This sounds fine. But I think this is quite doable. And the end is actually one of the hardest parts of the movement as well, especially if you're taking it at speed. So like if you're repeating, right? If this is the last time you're playing it, you can whatever it is, sorry. We can do a bit of a dramatic slowdown, but when we're repeating, we want that end to be coming along at a pretty good clip, and it gets a little bit hard. I obviously omit this big full chord if I'm repeating, so I'll just do just a B flat, like 2 hands, and I also, instead of playing this low octave, that second to last F, I'll just play I think a single F. Let me see here. Yeah, so I'll just reach down, play that F again, and then a little muffle and etc. Anyway, this movement, as I say, is pretty short because it's not that. I mean, it can be longer, but that's just because we have those 2 repeats possible. But there's not a lot of material in it, but it's fun. I really like this movement. It's got some really nice moments in it, and there you have it. So I will see you in a few minutes for the second part of this New Year's Eve's special. Cheers.